Previously President of South Africa's Constitutional Committee, Ambassador Worrell assumed duty in Australia in January. This is his first visit to Newcastle. This afternoon he was briefed on the Hunter region by the General Manager of the Hunter Development Board, Jeff Connell. I pointed out to the Ambassador that the Hunter's mine workers often express resentment of South Africa's mining industry, claiming that it has an unfair advantage because of restrictions on trade union activity.
It might have been 15 or even 10 years ago, but the fact is that one of the areas in which there has been very considerable development in my country has in fact been in the trade union field. And not only do workers of all population groups in South Africa in all fields have access to trade unions, but as a matter of fact trade unions are today serving their interests in all fields.
Are there any special restrictions on those trade unions and what action they can take?
No restrictions whatever. Membership, the right to collective action is recognised. There is, as there is in many countries, there is a certain procedure before a certain negotiating procedure before, in fact, industrial action can be taken, but there are no unusual or exceptional restrictions on trade unionism. I might point out more generally
Now that he's had time to think about it, how does Jack feel about the tournament?
Jack's really thrilled that the tournament's on, Jim. He feels humble that it's taken this to bring about the golf tournament in Newcastle, but Jack's thrilled that the tournament's on because he's always wanted a golf tournament in Newcastle. He's felt Newcastle should have a professional golf tournament, and it's unfortunately took his accident to bring the golf tournament around.
You say that he would now like to be personally involved in it?
Yes, he very much would like to be personally involved. I know I've been talking to him recently, and he expressed an interest. He thought he might be able to come up on the Saturday and Sunday of the tournament, and even expressed that he may go up in the television commentary box for a while if he was able to.
The Economic Summit carried a few clear messages today: the need for the region to become more competitive, to accept change, and for a greater deal of cooperation.
The meeting was urged to look for priorities and not instant solutions. There were a number of speeches from different sections of the community. The manufacturing sector spoke of the Hunter region's short-lived industrial boom. The chairman of the Metal Trades Industries Association, Mr. Ron Robson, predicted a further decline in employment in the metal industry. A forecast of a different kind came from Mr. Peter Barrick, who delivered a paper prepared by the shipbuilding industry. He told the conference that unions and management in the industry were combining to review inefficient and outmoded practices. The results were optimistic. The BHP's point of view was that Newcastle Steelworks had managed to show the company's executive management that the city does have a fully integrated plant worthy of development. Probably one of the most controversial statements today was made by Dr. Patterson, President of the Hunter District Water Board, who spoke on public sector infrastructure. He said that the traditions of both management and unions in the region have a lot to answer for. He added that through their joint efforts, much of the natural advantage of the region had been squandered. He and other speakers made an important observation about the region's recovery. It's not how much money is invested in the region, but how it is spent.
Tonight, Premier Rann will deliver a keynote address, and among those who will present papers tomorrow are members of the retailing, building and construction, education and financial sectors of the community.
17 years, the Foster Tongue Curry Oyster Festival has been spurring the growth of the area. Today the trade fair opened for the 5th year on Lake Street Reserve. With a steady growth in the number of small businesses in the area, there is plenty to see. Everything from ultralight aircraft to organs are being displayed. According to one of the organisers, Mr. Merv Walters, there are several new attractions at this year's festival. Visitors can Mardi Gras in Wharf Street on Saturday night, dance at the Rock Oyster concert on Sunday, see BMX races, demonstrations of the ultralight aircraft, and finally the aerobatics demonstration by the RAF's roulette team. Oh, and there will be oysters in oyster throwing and oyster bag carrying contests. With fine sunny weather predicted for Saturday and Sunday at least, many people will have the chance to start an early tan, swim, sail and generally relax. The Upper Hunter Wine Festival will be in full swing, with organisers expecting the event to carry the biggest crowds ever seen at an event in the area. And travelling south, Gosford's Festival of the Waters kicks off with dozens of activities, all of which promises a festive long weekend.
Dean Beale has been the Dean of Newcastle for 8.5 years and has played a prominent role in the completion of the cathedral, making the church more open to the community. He's reluctant to leave but feels it's time to take up a new challenge.
This came out of the blue from the Bishop of Canberra Goulburn, and I considered it and it looked like a challenge. So as much as I loathe leaving Newcastle, which I love, and the cathedral of course, it's a decision I felt I should face and I've made.
Some people would be very surprised by that decision, that you would leave this job and go to Albury as a parish priest.
Yes, well, that's half the fun of this life. I was 3 years as parish priest in St Paul's, Ipswich in Queensland, and Newcastle came out of the blue, and when I announced to the people there that I was leaving to go to Newcastle, they said, "What have we done to you? Don't you love us?" Only after 3 years. But again, there was a job to be done here, and I feel it's been done. And so new leadership and new vision could be wonderful for this cathedral and what it has to do in the city.
So you leave with some regret?
Certainly, because Newcastle's been very, very generous to me and to the cathedral.
Shops were open in the mall. While trading was slow, there was plenty of window shopping. Most of the suburban centres were busy. Woolworths, Coles and some of the other major outlets attracted the crowds. Judging by the number of cars in suburban centres, it was hard to tell that today was any different to any other trading day. As far as the shoppers are concerned, public holiday trading is a good idea.
I work fairly lengthy hours and I find it's most expedient for us.
It's all very convenient, I think, and I think the idea is great.
It's a good chance to wander around through the shops.
It's very convenient for you.
Of course it is, yeah. Should be more of it.
Newcastle shop assistants who were working today ignored a recommendation from their union which strongly opposed trading on Labor Day. The union circulated an information sheet urging members not to work and informing them of their rights, but still some chose to work today. How does the union feel about that?
Well, that is their decision to work and we will not be taking any action against them. I would, of course, prefer people not to be volunteering to work because the retailers have attempted to open on Labor Day. They attempted to open on Anzac Day last year, and one wonders whether it will be Queen's Birthday, Boxing Day, Christmas Day, Good Friday. Perhaps they're going to open on Good Friday to sell vinegar. Who knows what the future might hold.
You get one?
Okay, we see loads up here.
Doing a bit of crook stuff last. Oh, great putt.
Beauty. Putt, Jack.
The men's volleyball final was between Newcastle at the near end, who are undefeated in the rounds, and Shoalhaven. The local team took out the title for the first time in 3 years by winning in 3 sets, 15-8, 15-10, 15-10. Peter Steigler and Brad Pritchard were the best for the winners. The women's final saw Shoalhaven in yellow, the current title holders, clash with the Central Coast. Central Coast came out the winners after a hard-fought match, 3-2. Meanwhile, on the waves, the Malibus made a big comeback this weekend at the NBN Steel City Malibu Invitational Classic. The old-time champs came out on top, with Nat Young, who took out the World Championship in the mid-60s, winning the old Malibu class, and another former champion, Jeff Hackman, taking out the modern Mal final. In the nose riding final, national senior champion Steve Butterworth took out the title from Peter Cornish and Steve Duffy.
The Griffith Duncan Theatre at Newcastle College of Advanced Education has been filled today with 93 clergy and nearly 200 laymen and women. They have been part of this year's Anglican Synod, which annually deals with issues of administration and religion. Last night the Synod began with a Eucharist held in Christchurch Cathedral, at which the Bishop of Newcastle, the Right Reverend Alfred Holland, outlined the major areas of discussion for today. Today, participants divided into groups to discuss one of 8 issues. Amongst these have been youth unemployment and the quest for peace. I asked Auxiliary Bishop Richard Appleby what the Church can do about these issues.
It's really a case of changing attitudes in society, and it's not just unemployment, it's a question of sharing of the wealth of this society so that we don't have a privileged group who are the workers and a disadvantaged group who are the unemployed. So we're concerned about that, changing attitudes, bringing about change of wealth, distribution of wealth in our society and so on. So we're working at those issues, which are mighty big issues, but we need to have, there's no slick answers obviously, but we're certainly working at that and trying to bring about change in attitude, and in the meantime helping those who are disadvantaged through unemployment.
The debate on social issues continues tonight, and final resolutions will be made at the Synod's conclusion tomorrow.
Ozzie Moore was the overnight leader by 1 stroke when play resumed today. Bob Shearer birdied 10 and 11 to go 5 under the card, but bogeyed 13 to come back to 4 under. Ozzie Moore birdied 11 and 12 to tie with Shearer at 4 under. But at the 14th hole, Moore dropped a shot to go back to 3 under, and he remained that way for the rest of the tournament. On the final hole, Shearer putted out to be 4 under, and Moore had this putt to tie, forcing a sudden death playoff. Moore missed his chance and remained 3 under. Wayne Grady of Queensland hit this great second shot on the 18th and knocked a putt into tie with Ozzie Moore on second spot at 3 under. But it was Bob Shearer who walked away with the money this weekend.
Good morning everyone and welcome once again. A few days ago I was involved in a money management retirement planning seminar During question time, I was asked why I'd been advising so many people of late to invest in real estate. Well, let me explain why. Firstly, I believe that the real estate markets of Australia, to all intents and purposes, bottomed or are very close to bottoming right now, or they bottomed a couple of months ago, depending upon the area that we're talking about. Secondly, there is plenty of money around, so now is a great time to borrow. And you've only got to look at what's been happening over the last few weeks with regard to interest rate reductions. Don't forget, of course, we've got the new Home Deposit Type Assistance Scheme, which comes into operation on October the 1st, 1983. And that can be worth up to $7,000 in one form or another, depending upon one's family situation. So, all in all, that's a very important point. The third point, and I want to emphasise this from the point of view of planning for retirement, is that you can anticipate your needs in advance if, for example, you're 40 or 45 and you decide to buy a unit or a townhouse now. Now let me explain what I mean. When you're 60 or 65 or a little older, let's say you're comfortable where you are, you're happy in your own home, but later on, it's an unfortunate fact of life that we'll slow down, our health may not be the best, and we'll have to move to a smaller place. Well, looking at the investment side, right now you can buy that home or a unit, as I mentioned before, but you can also anticipate those needs so that when you've got to move from your own home 10 or 15 years from now, you can do so without any worries or fears whatsoever. If you don't make the decision now, you won't have the guts to make the decision 15 years from now simply because of your age. You think about that, and I'll see you next Monday.
Ray has designed. The first was used in the snow and has created quite a bit of interest overseas because of its manoeuvrability. Ray is hopeful he will have the same success with his newest invention, which as yet hasn't been named. Ray and fellow inventor Graham Chapman worked long and hard to develop the water toboggan, and now they hope to manufacture it in Newcastle and export it overseas. It looks very easy as they swim across the water, but sometimes even the experts can't avoid a spill. Ray says the contours of the fiberglass board have the same effect as a hovercraft because they allow the air to get in. He claims the development is applicable to both water skis and surfboards.
Well, virtually it has a layer of air going under the whole length of the board. You've got these two air intake chambers here, and they tune the air back to a central position where it's a dead flat plane which irons the air out, and then you've got two suction chambers in the tail, and that gives you the stability of, like, it sort of does the same thing as the fins do in a normal surfboard, except you haven't got the resistance when you turn the toboggan sideways.
As this band from Adamstown Public School got into full swing. The Adamstown Public School is one of 19 schools displaying their talent at the 12th Annual Newcastle Primary Schools Music Festival. The 4-day festival is also a fundraising event, with 5 $220 musical scholarships going to primary school students in Newcastle and grants of $45 to schools who need money for musical instruments. But of course, another reason for the festival is to simply give the students a chance to perform. There were 3 sections in the competition. They were Years 7 and 8, 9 and 10 and the senior school section. The idea was to allow the children to use their imaginations to work account of what their shopping centre will look like in 17 years' time. The winner will now compete in Sydney with other futuristic shopping centre designs from around the state. The Year 11 and 12 section winner was 16-year-old Philip Rossington from Walls End.
It's the sort of field that I wanted to go into, and I leave, and I thought it'd be a good experience.